Toni Braxton just dropped a whole archive of wedding photos that nobody knew existed, and she chose the most perfect moment to do it, right on her second anniversary with Birdman. We're talking intimate moments behind the scenes, candids, and angles of the ceremony that never made it to social media the first time around. This isn't just a throwback post. This is a full-on photo dump that rewrites what people thought they knew about their wedding day, and the timing makes it feel deliberate, calculated, and honestly, a little mysterious about why she was sitting on these shots for 2 years. The photos started surfacing across Toni's Instagram yesterday morning, and they're doing exactly what she probably intended, sparking a total reassessment of the whole wedding narrative. The aesthetic is completely different from the polished posed pictures that circulated initially. These are raw, unfiltered moments. Toni in her dress backstage with makeup artists, genuine, candid laughter between her and mating. Birdman, family members in unguarded moments, details of flowers and decor that never got highlighted before. One image shows Toni from behind in her gown, looking out at what appears to be the venue setup, genuinely contemplative, not performing for the camera. Another captures Birdman's face in a way that reveals an emotional vulnerability you don't typically see in his public appearances. What's particularly interesting is the staging of the reveal itself. Toni didn't just dump the photos and disappear. Her caption was thoughtful, without being overly sentimental. Something along the lines of, 2 years of building our world together. These moments remind me why every second counted that day. She tagged Birdman. She tagged their photographer. She created this entire ecosystem that invited people to re-examine their wedding as a milestone rather than just a past event. Post went viral within hours, not because of drama, but because people were genuinely hungry for content that showed a different side of a relationship people had questions about from the jump. The internet's reactions split into predictable camps almost immediately. One massive contingent of people used the photos as evidence that the relationship is solid and thriving. Comments flooded in. They really are happy together. Birdman's face in this one shows how much he loves her. The way he looks at her in photo 12, I can't. These are the people who wanted validation that skeptics were wrong, that this wasn't some temporary arrangement or publicity stunt. These photos were permission to believe the narrative Toni and Birdman have been selling, that this is a genuine partnership between two people who chose each other deliberately. But there's another layer of commentary that's more cynical and actually worth examining. Some people are pointing out the timing as suspicious. Why reveal these photos now? Specifically, is there relationship maintenance happening? Is one of them trying to combat gossip that's been circulating quietly? Did their team see some metric suggesting public interest was waning and decide to feed the beast? This camp isn't saying the relationship is fake, but they're questioning why Toni would hold on to these photos for 2 years and then strategically release them during an anniversary window. That's not organic nostalgia. That's a content play, and acknowledging that doesn't negate the relationship's authenticity, but it does add a layer of intentionality that's worth noticing. The wedding itself, when it happened, was surprisingly intimate given both of their profiles. It wasn't some massive celebrity spectacle. Close family, close friends, understated elegance, which was actually shocking given Toni's history and Birdman's typical aesthetic. The fact that she's been sitting on these photos, these more vulnerable versions of the day, suggests she was protecting something about the experience. The initial public wedding photos felt celebratory. These new ones feel personal. That's a meaningful distinction. Industry observers are noting something else entirely. This release signals that Toni is in complete control of her own narrative right now. For years, Toni's career and personal life were subjects that felt contested. People had opinions, media outlets had angles, and she was often responding to external pressure. This photo dump is different. This is her deciding what gets seen, when, and how it gets framed. She's not reacting to rumors or defending her choices. She's simply stating, here's what happened, here's what it looked like, and here's me celebrating it on my terms. From a power standpoint, that's actually significant into something negative. You can't build a sustained negative story about people who don't give you material to work with. They learned from watching other celebrity couples get eviscerated in the press by oversharing or by having their private moments constantly exposed. The photographer's response to the photo dump is worth noting too. They reposted several images and included a caption that felt genuinely moved, something about being honored to capture authentic joy on their wedding day. For a wedding photographer whose work usually lives in private archives and maybe gets a mention on a couple's anniversary, having their shots resurface 2 years later and go viral is actually a massive deal. They're getting unsolicited promotion, industry visibility, and proof that their work resonates. This could shift their entire career trajectory. When celebrities make these moves to share old content, photographers often benefit in ways they never anticipated, and Toni's team clearly understood that dynamic. What's fascinating is how differently this plays compared to other celebrity wedding photo reveals. Usually when stars drop old wedding photos, it's either because they just got divorced, the throwback to when we were happy move that breaks everyone's heart, or they're rebranding the wedding narrative after public opinion shifted. Think, someone who married a person who later became controversial. Toni's situation is neither. She's using the photos to cement a relationship that's already established and secure. It's almost like she's saying, 2 years in, we're still here, and I'm still proud enough to show you this day again, but now with additional layers you didn't see before. The timing relative to entertainment news cycles is also deliberate. This dropped on a Tuesday morning, which means it had the entire week to build momentum before Friday news dumps, weekend coverage, and other stories competed for oxygen. Whoever choreographed this release understood media rhythm. You don't accidentally time something this well. You don't accidentally have high-quality photos ready to roll and a caption that hits the right emotional note and a photographer ready to amplify the moment. This was planned, and that planning reveals how much thought goes into how public figures maintain their image and their narrative in real time. UAG and DUA8. Some outlets have already started speculating about whether this signals something bigger. Could there be a documentary coming? A podcast episode about their relationship? A deeper interview where she talks about what those moments meant? Media rarely lets these moments exist in isolation. They immediately start building bridges to the next content opportunity. And honestly, given how well this has been received, it wouldn't be shocking if there was a follow-up planned. Toni's smart enough to know when she struck a chord, and the response to these photos has been overwhelmingly positive, which creates space for her to monetize that sentiment further if she chooses to. The family angle is subtle but important. Toni's mother appears in several of the photos, and those images have become particularly poignant in fan conversations because of her passing. People are treating these photos as documentation of a moment when her mother was present, part of the wedding, part of the early foundation of this marriage. By releasing these now, Toni's effectively preserving a version of her mother's memory in the context of her own happiness. That's powerful, and it's the kind of emotional resonance that can't be manufactured. It either exists in a photo or it doesn't. Birdman's family presence is less visible but still felt. There are a few photos where you catch glimpses of his circle, his world being integrated into Toni's. The wedding represented a real merger of two completely different universes, Toni's R&B legacy and industry connections versus Birdman's music business empire and street credibility. Seeing that integration actually happen in photos gives people permission to believe that the relationship isn't just a celebrity pairing, but an actual blending of lives and circles. The fashion element is getting its own moment too. Toni's wedding dress is a major talking point in the new photos. The way the fabric moves, the details on the back that you couldn't see from certain angles in the original photos, the jewelry choices, it's creating a secondary conversation about her as a bride, as a person making aesthetic choices, as someone who clearly thought carefully about how she wanted to present herself on that day. Fashion influencers and bloggers are already creating content around the dress, tracking down the designer references, talking about how timeless the look remains 2 years later. That's organic earned media for the entire wedding aesthetic. There's also the relationship trajectory worth examining here. Toni and Birdman didn't follow the typical celebrity relationship script. They didn't do a slow reveal, didn't do the caught at a restaurant narrative, didn't build anticipation through leaked couple photos. They were quietly together, then they were engaged, then they were married, and throughout that entire process, they maintained surprising privacy. This photo dump is actually the most they've collectively shared about their relationship since the wedding itself. It's a strategic choice to still be relatively guarded, while also giving people enough to feed on, enough to believe in, enough to invest in their story. The commentary around their actual happiness is where things get real. You can fake a lot in celebrity culture, but it's genuinely difficult to fake authentic emotional connection across multiple candid photos. Photographers are trained to capture real moments, and the best wedding photographers know how to make people forget they're being documented so genuine emotion can surface. At these photos, there's nothing that screams performative relationship. If anything, the couple looks relieved and genuinely pleased to be marrying each other, which is the bare minimum you'd want, but often don't see in celebrity wedding photos. Some relationship experts and therapists who comment on celebrity dynamics have weighed in, suggesting that the fact Toni and Birdman have maintained a mostly private relationship while still making strategic public gestures is actually the healthiest balance. They're not oversharing. They're not completely absent from